Well, hello and welcome to today's video. Today we're talking about the brother MFC-L3745CDW that won't turn on. It has no power. This machine is also known as the MFC-L3750, as well as also being known as the MFC-L3770cdw, as well as the printer-only version without the screen. That is the HL-L3230CDW, the basic version without the color touchscreen, the DCP-L3510cdw, and a whole plethora of machines in this series. So the problem is, you're pushing the power button, and the power button will not turn the printer on. So we have to determine if the machine is got a completely blown up power supply, in which case it's probably cheaper just to buy a new printer, because changing the power supply out plus labor, unless you're doing it yourself, is not really viable to get a printer technician to do, unless you've got a printer technician who's got a very slow workshop in which he'll take any work on that comes through. So we have to determine if the power supply is blowing up. So let's just start off. We start off by unplugging the power cord from the back of the printer, like so. We then hold down the power button for approximately 10 seconds. That's just to release any residual charge that may be in your power supply and to prove that the power supply is not the faulty component in this printer. We release the power button. Now the next step is very important. You need to hold down the power button with one hand, whilst at the same time plugging the power cord in the back. So I will hold the power button down with this finger. I will plug the power cord into the socket at the back. And lo and behold, this proves that this machine has a fully functioning working power supply. It simply has a problem with one of these. These devices are called supercapacitors. This is what the machine uses to keep a little clock ticking over inside the machine. These supercapacitors generally have a rated life at about, I think it's about 4,000 hours, which usually equates to, if you've got your machine turned on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, this part should last between 3 and 4 years. Now the issue is that Brother have sourced some poor quality supercapacitors for the building of this machine, and some of these supercapacitors are only lasting about 500 hours of life. And the life will also vary depending on where you live, whether you live in a hot climate, a cold climate, a very humid climate, it all varies the life of this part. Now in some of these machines, they don't have just one of these, they actually have two. And today we're doing this video a little bit on the fly. I have yet to do this replacement on this model of machine. This is the very first one of these I've had through the workshop with one of these. So we're going to make a step-by-step video on the fly, and all the surprises we're going to have, they're all going to be experienced as we go. Alright, so we know this machine doesn't have a blown up power supply. We've got to get in and change the supercapacitors. If you've done this test and your machine does not turn on, do the test 3 times. So go back to the beginning of the video, watch the procedure and do it over again. Do it 3 times just to make sure that your power supply, which is blown up, is the actual cause. So the power supplies they have in these machines, these are the power boards that are in them. Yeah, so quite commonly you'll find on the power board one of the fuses is blown, and the MOSFET, which cuts the power down, is blown up as well, and there'll be a diode on the secondary side of the power board that's also blown up. Some I fix, some I just can't be bothered, and we just sell the customer a new machine, because when you're in business you need things to work and you need them to work straight away. Okay, so we'll just unplug the machine. Okay, so we've got the cover slowly out. We need to come down underneath and grab underneath, pull, and then off comes the entire side cover. So this gives us access to the motherboard, which is behind this earth shielding plate. We need to take this screw out here, this screw out here, this screw in here, and this screw in here. Okay, so this is the supercapacitor that we need to remove, and as you can see, it is in a really tight position and is going to be rather difficult to remove without damaging all the other components around it. So we have surface mount resistor, crystal, and these a few surface mount components up here. So what we're going to do is we're going to separate the leg from one side. So I'm just using an ordinary old kitchen knife, and we need to get it in here. Just being mindful of not touching these components up here and along here. So we've got enough of a gap there now. Now, so there, if we get in there. So in there, we can get that under there now. Now we will get our cutters. So these are my cutters. And then we just get in there and we snip it free. Yep, so that's one side free. Oh, by the way, I'm working on the machine with it on its side, because we don't really want to fight with gravity with this type of problem. So we then bend it over and we pay attention to the direction that the capacitor is in. So its butt is this side. Carefully pry it over, and that should give us enough clearance just to get under there and snip it free. You just got to be careful not to get anywhere near this crystal, because any dint or mark on it would be just be catastrophic for this circuit board. Okay. So try not to touch anywhere else on the circuit board. If you're going to be touching the circuit board, make sure you take one shoe off with your foot on any surface. And that just earths your body so you don't get any static electricity on this circuit board. Alright, that's the old supercapacitor out. So now we've got to prepare this area for the soldering on the new supercapacitor. Once again, as in previous videos, it's not about making it pretty, making it look good. It's just simply about making the electrical connections touch. Because if this machine ends up having a lifespan of, say, 10 years, you'll probably have to get in here and change the supercapacitor maybe another 2 times before you end up sending this machine off for scrap. So we'll just get our soldering station ready and then we'll move on. Okay, so we've got our soldering station heating up. We've got our solder ready. I prefer to use 60-40, that's 60% tin, 40% lead solder. It's just really easy to work with. If you're trying to do this repair with lead-free solder, you will find that you will be having great difficulty in getting your new supercapacitor soldered onto the board. So we're just going to simply go in there and we're going to apply some lead-based solder to the board and get it ready for the new capacitor. Yep, I think that's all touched up really well. Yep, that's ready, so we'll go get the capacitor and get it ready for soldering it in. Alright, so we're just simply going to tin the leads of the capacitor. So we'll get a nice big amount of solder on there. Maybe not that much. Yeah. Try not to burn our fingers in the process. So there's our capacitor ready to go in. Alright, so we've got our capacitor ready to go in. It goes in butt side facing towards you. Some of these capacitors that we buy in, they seem to be like reverse labeled. So some of them are really quite hard to understand. It's just simply, you just got to look at the shape of the capacitor and just put it in the way the old capacitor shape was. So you've got your, it's like a battery, you've got your top bump and then you've got the flat sides of the battery. So we're just simply putting it in this way now. Okay. Make sure that's in. Yeah, that looks like it's terminated. Yep, that looks good. So it doesn't have to be pretty, it just has to be in there making an electrical connection. Let's make sure that is soldered correctly. Yeah, that looks good. Because, you may have to do this 2 or 3 times if you end up getting a 10-year lifespan out of this printer. Yeah, so these capacitors are rated at I think about 4,000 hours, but just lately in the past few years, it doesn't matter what source I buy from, some of them just only seem to be going as high as 500 hours. So yeah, alright, well that's in. So you can see there, She ain't pretty, but she's going to do the job. Just make sure none of the leads are touching anything else. And more importantly, we need to make sure that when we put the earthing plate back on top, it doesn't touch and short circuit things out. Let's bend that down a little bit. Yep, that'll do. So we'll put it back together and we'll do some measurements and just make sure that capacitor is charging up. Okay, so we just still got the machine sitting on its side. I'm leaving the top cover slightly ajar because we don't want any of these motors or anything to start spinning, and we do not want the fusee unit to heat up with it sitting on its side. So we will now just plug it in. And straight away we see the unit turns on, which is a very good sign. So we've got our meter here with a dead battery by the looks of it. So we're just simply going to touch one of, rather than risking getting in here and shorting things out, I'm just simply going to tie my broken lead to the body of the chassis, which is quite obviously earth, and then we're going to go over and touch the positive side Yep, so if I can get that in the frame. Alright, so we got our meter. We touch the positive side of the cap, and there we've got 4.7 volts. Now we'll just simply unplug the power lead, let the machine power down. We'll go back on, touching the supercapacitor. And we can see that new supercapacitor is now holding a charge, 4.4 volts, with it gradually ticking down. And that's it, that machine is fixed. We will now put it all back together, send it back to the customer, and we'll call that job done. So if you want to buy these supercapacitors, you can head over to my website, fixitfastelectronics.com. Simply click on the tab on the left that says printer parts. We ship worldwide for free. You can buy one, you can buy multiple quantities, and yeah, or you can head on to various other websites that have now popped up on the internet selling these capacitors for 10 times the price to what I sell them for, which I find quite amusing. Actually, I will show you one. So, brother, super So there's my link to buy the supercapacitor. Or you can head over to my competitors. He's got 768 reviews, and look how much he sells the part for. Oh my god. I find it quite funny that 768 people actually paid $84 for that capacitor. Yeah, it's a lot cheaper on my website, so we'll just go back up to the real one. Now, we ship worldwide for free. You can get other parts on our website. And if we head right down to the bottom, there's the supercapacitor, and you get special rates if you buy more than one. Yeah, so that's it for today. If you need this capacitor, just hit the website, and shipping's quite fast at the moment, so it's usually around 7 days. You can just turn your machine on using the reset method and keep using it until the supercapacitor arrives. What you just got to bear in mind is that when your machine goes to sleep and you send it a print job, the printer won't wake up. That's why it's really quite important that this thing gets changed. So that's it for today's video. Thanks for watching.